A very low percentage of folks have 80% of type 1 muscle fibers in their quads. 80%! If you have 80% distribution of type 1 muscle fibers, you're gonna outrun that person who runs with you who only has 20%. You're gonna outrun them on the marathon 100%. I've stumbled over this study from Nature Metabolism recently. I've seen how Floyd Mayweather has kind of a bad habit with junk food. He eats junk food all the time. He's like, I'm addicted to that stuff. Imagine how that flies into the face of another athlete who wants to reach world-class level and working with a nutritional coach, doing all that he does to get his nutrients and the veggies and the fruits and all that kind of stuff. And then you look at Floyd Mayweather, one of the best boxers alive, and he eats junk food all day. So that goes to show that there's something with the genetic endowment that we're going to look at with this study. So it says world-class athletic performance and genetic endowment from Mark A. Zarzinski and Claude Bouchard. I actually messaged this Mr. Mark A. Zarzinski to tell him about how interesting this study is. Individual differences in physical performance in the sedentary state and in response to exercise training have been observed in rodent and human studies. What this means is we have seen that people react differently to exercise training. The genomic variants underlying these genetic components are unknown. People say we don't know why this is. Nonetheless, without a rich genetic endowment, world-class athletic performance is out of reach. The quality of coaching and training and the adequacy of nutritional, psychological, and medical support are all related to success in athletic performance. Related, yet not a necessity. It is part of the success, of course, but if you're not gifted, it's probably not going to do as much. World-class performance also has genetic determinants. Although this notion is accepted as truism by most people, divergent views exist. Common fallacy that performance is all about practice and training. For example, because body height has a strong heritability component on the order of 65 to 80%. Inheriting many height-enhancing alleles is necessary if someone is to become a highly successful basketball player. If you're not tall, you're not going to make it unless your name is Muxy Bogues. But this is so interesting. 80% of your success in basketball training depends on your height or depends on your genetic alleles. People who start with high levels of a trait before exposure to exercise training are well poised to experience early success. One example is the fiber type distribution of skeletal muscles such as the vastus lateralis. Being endowed with a high proportion of type 1 fibers, these are the slow twitching fibers, marathon runners have a lot of these, would be a major advantage in sedentary individuals who engage in competitive events imposing high aerobic metabolic demands on muscles. So that means you have never run before and now you're like, hey, I'm going to do a marathon next year. So you start the training, but you never even stepped on the floor for running unless you were walking. And now you found out that you're genetically gifted. You got 80% of your vastus lateralis of your quads are made up of type 1 muscle fibers. Now you start the exercise training and now you outrun everybody in the marathon and everybody's like, whoa, you've never run before. So that's the genetic component. And approximately 45% of the variability in the fiber type 1 distribution has been estimated to be genetically determined. So 50% of your success will be your genetics. Crazy. Similar observations have been reported for traits such as fat-free mass. So 50% of how shredded you're going to look is genetics. Your heart size, your cardiac output, so that goes into those aerobic and anaerobic sports where your heart needs to pump out a lot of blood. Muscle strength and power, so if you want to be a power lifter, 50% of your success will be genetics and maximal oxygen uptake. This is so interesting. I don't want to discourage anybody from lifting, training, exercising regularly. But if you want to become a high-level world-class athlete, it's genetics. 50% of the game, like he says here, or like they say here. 45% genetic variance and 40% is environmental variance. And look at this, if I'm reading this chart right, please correct me in the comments if I'm misreading the chart. But I believe it says a very low percentage of folks have 80% of type 1 muscle fibers in their quads. 80%! If you have 80% distribution of type 1 muscle fibers, you're gonna outrun that person who runs with you who only has 20%. You're gonna outrun them on the marathon 100%. And I believe even if that person with 20% type 1 muscle fibers has more exercise training, you're gonna beat them with less exercise training because you're genetically gifted with 80% type 1 muscle fibers. To become an elite performer, one must be initially well endowed in the traits that have critical roles in the athletic event of interest, and one should also be a high responder to exercise training. So, if you want to be a powerlifter, you have to have the genetic components to be a powerlifter. If you want to be a world-class marathon runner, you have to have those components as well. This is interesting. And you have to be a high responder to the exercise training. So interesting. And in summary, they say the genomic signatures of various types of elite athletic performance have not yet been successfully identified. So they don't know how this stuff 100% works, and they need some controlled studies with large sample sizes. They're not impossible, but challenging, and they should be encouraged by fostering multi-laboratory collaborations, so people have to work together to shed some light on this very interesting topic of research. So thank you for watching. I hope this video was helpful. If you want to see more of this stuff, like the video, share it with your friends, and if you want to dig deep into kettlebell training, check out our 30 days of kettlebell training course. And if you want to stay up to date and upgrade your kettlebell game, then subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.